Hello, my name is Marian, and today I want to talk about the Stride game engine, how to issue a bug report, and generally handle the engine. So, here in my browser, I have the Stride Git repo open, which I will get to in a second. So first things first, I have downloaded the newest package of Stride, and I'm going to launch it. I will create a new game, call it my repro, because I'm going to try to reproduce a bug. Keep the defaults, wait for it to spin up, and as it loads, I will then create a very simple script that will crash the game because there's a bug. So let me grab the ground, and I will create a new script, a sync script called bug. Right. Let me then start Visual Studio. And I can proceed to actually create the bug. Well, create the script that shows the bug. So this is going to be a rather simple script. It's going to pick, so the component will take the component will take another entity that it will remove from the scene, and a second entity that it will plug this entity into. So we'll have a public entity called entity to remove, and a entity called new parent. And basically it only needs to be actually a startup script, so we'll not need the update method. And what I'll do here in the start is I'm going to remove the entity from the scene, entity to remove dot scene equals null, and in the same method, in the same frame, I will set its parent by doing new parent dot add child entity to remove. Now this causes a bug because doing this causes an improper state in the physics engine. But yeah, that's another important thing. This entity needs to have a rigid body, well, or a different type of physics component, basically. Yeah. So this is my code. There's the minimal amount of code needed to actually reproduce the bug. I will go ahead here, check the sphere. The sphere has only a model. I will add a rigid body to it. Keep the default stuff. Make sure it has a collider, a simple box collider. We can turn on the colliders in here by checking physics on. This is the symbol of arrows next to the camera. And now we can see the box. The box is the collider. Okay, so it has the collider, nice. Now I will pick a, let's create a new entity that will be the holder for our bug. I will bring this over here. I will select the sphere to be removed and the ground to be a new parent. I will now save that and go ahead here, break just to make sure it's going to hit it. Hit F5 to start the compilation and debugging of my game. Wait a few seconds. And boom, okay, I've hit the breakpoint. Now I'm going to hit F5 to continue. And boom, it crashed. So that's very bad because it crashed without giving me any notice. I can check here in the debug that it didn't even leave a proper trace here. So this is very bad. Now I don't know what to do, right? It just crashed. But I can recompile the game with my own libraries. I can take Stride source from the repo and compile it locally. Now this needs a few things, and here we have instructions for building from source. So what's important is to install Visual Studio with all the crazy stuff there and to remember the FBX SDK. Without it, you won't be able to compile the native libraries that are necessary. Okay, so I have installed all the stuff and I have cloned the repository. So I will launch a second instance of Visual Studio and open Stride SLN. I have a few things opened here, so I will close all my windows. But generally, you're going to just see a lot of projects, and it's not necessary to compile it all. Quite the opposite, actually. Okay, so the key thing to compile is the Game Studio project. I will right-click it and say build. Now, I would do this, but for the video purposes, it's going to take a while. If you have any issues compiling, you can check out the Stride Discord server and ask for help. Okay, so I have actually built it. Now, building it also publishes NuGet packages for all the projects here. So I can close my project, my Game Studio instance here, right? Go back here, and now I will go into the project and manually change the version because I suspect it might not want to roll back. Actually, you know what? Let's try that. Yeah. So before I change anything here, I will just launch Stride, and now here you will see the beta 04 or the following version option without the build number. This is the version built locally, which I have installed, but if you don't have it installed, just click it, click install, and it will just copy the NuGet packages over to the global Stride directory so that it can actually use it properly. Okay, so there's one more thing, the .NET Core versus Net 4.7. You need to do one thing, you need to change one thing from the main repo to achieve that, and that is in the Stride sources, targets, core target framework editor. You will need to add this netcore app 3.1 semicolon to the Stride editor target frameworks variable property. When doing so, you need to then restart Visual Studio and you can build it again to have both the .NET Core and .NET Framework versions. So I will finally launch my Beta 04 with my repro, and hopefully it will... Okay, I clicked it too many times now. I'm sorry. Okay, God. Yeah, that's not great when you do that accidentally. Okay, so it's actually complaining about something. Right. So what happened is it didn't think about upgrading the project. And I cannot really use a different version of Stride with a different project version. Right? So here the project has references to all the Stride libraries. And the Stride Game Studio and the asset compiler need to match that version that the game is actually referencing. So I have to do it only here in this one project. Now, having done that, I don't really need to launch the Game Studio again, right? So I have just changed the reference here to the version installed locally, compiled locally. So now when I do the same, I break here, I hit F5, wait for compilation to go through. Right now the new libraries, the local libraries are going to be used. And I hit here, I hit F5 again, and that's not, that wasn't supposed to happen. Okay, I saw some exception in my build. Okay, so turns out I have not the newest version of Stride source. So I will not modify any assets. I will go ahead into the Stride solution. I will get the developer PowerShell. You can search this box here for PowerShell and get the PowerShell inside the project directory. And well, I will switch to master, so I will stash any changes I might have made. I will do git checkout master. Now I have actually plugged my git repo here to my fork, so I have two remotes. Right, I have origin and source. Origin is my fork and source is the upstream. So I will do git pull source master and get the latest changes. Now in your case, if you cloned Stride directly from the source, you would just do git pull to get the latest version on the master branch. Yes. I now have to ideally close Visual Studio because it's not really that pleasant when it comes to external changes. And right now it has crashed, so kudos Visual Studio. Why not? Okay, and yes, I will now also git stash pop, but without the spelling mistakes. And I have a conflict. Let me see. Let me launch Visual Studio again. See, this was not supposed to happen. It was supposed to be a simple tutorial, but mistakes happen, and hopefully you will not have the same problems as I do. So, okay, now because I crashed it, it relaunched all the stuff I have already closed. Let me reopen the targets file I have previously edited to make sure. Yes, exactly. So this is what I want. These are my changes. Okay. And now I will again do close solution. See those yellow things? That's because it doesn't like me. And also because changing this one property means the cached files that Visual Studio does for its session are invalidated. So, reloading. And rebuilding. I didn't want to do this, but I have to. Rebuild. Now let's also hope I don't get any errors. Or else I will end up debugging the wrong application. I was supposed to create a bug in the game and show you how to find it in the Stride engine, in its source, which should compile without issues. Now this is going to take a while, so I will try to come up with a joke. Okay, so there's this joke about a dude that goes to a bar and orders 2 shots, and does that every day for a while. So one time the barkeeper asks him, why do you always drink 2 shots? And he says, one is for me, and the other one is for my buddy that had to leave the country. And it goes on for a while. And then at some point, the guy starts to only order 1 shot. So the barkeep is like, did something happen to your buddy? And the man says, no, he's fine. I just decided not to drink anymore for health reasons. Okay, let me check out the build output and the error list. 0 errors, that's a good sign. Now we're coming close. It's all going good. I can close those yellow boxes here as they are no longer necessary. And we are nearly done with building Stride. Now each time after you build the Game Studio, you need to reinstall it in the launcher, which I will do in just a minute. Hopefully, if you don't want to modify the Stride game engine yourself, you would only do this rebuilding every time there's a new release to be up to date. but you know, it takes a while, and yeah, there's projects failing, so I can even show you that. So I will hide the warnings and take a look at the errors. And the errors are about the presentation and the editor DLLs. So, right. I'm guessing that because the presentation didn't compile, then the editor couldn't. So let me grab Stride Assets Presentation, which is in Assets, no? In Presentation, also no? Oh, here, in the editor, okay. And let me hit rebuild on that. Now if this builds properly, then the rest should also build properly. Well, I hope that my unlucky errors are going to be helpful to you, because you can actually see how I deal with problems. The downside is it takes a while. And what I noticed is that a lot of those projects get recompiled every time you change. Every time you say build, many of those get recompiled, even though they didn't change. I don't know why exactly. But unfortunately, I did see something failing there, so I'm not too optimistic, to be honest. But let's give it a chance. If this doesn't go well, I will then roll back to a different version to show you finally how to debug the issue, which should be easily debuggable. And by easy debuggable, what I mean is, come on, what is this? Okay, you know what? The best thing to do is to cleanse the solution, because yeah, maybe that's the issue. So what I did was I have changed a branch in the Git repo, right? I updated the master and then did not clean the solution. So there is a chance that there was something that was like that wasn't recompiled and had something cached so that it was in an invalid state. It's possible. Cleaning should help. Cleaning is generally supposed to fix everything. It doesn't always do that, but it should. Yeah, so I will definitely release this video, but then maybe I will record another one that's shorter. I'll think about it. There's a lot of stuff you can learn here with those problems, but it's a long video. In the meantime, I will talk about more of what I want to happen, basically, here. So I am aware that this is going to cause an exception in the physics simulation, or rather in the rigid body callback, basically. Or maybe the physics component callback, either way. So given that, what I expect to happen, right, because I am building the Stride from the source, it's going to have the full debugging symbols with it. What I expect to happen is Visual Studio to show me where an exception is thrown. And then I can go into the Stride solution, view the file, and actually analyze the problem. Right. Any errors so far? Yes, that's terrible. Okay, see. I'm going to restart this instance of Visual Studio just to be safe. Oh no, wait. 0 failed. Well, that's good news. So those errors are apparently not important. Okay, which means I can launch Stride. Yes, I'm launching Stride. Now here I'm checking the beta 04, right, the local version, installing it. This is rather short. Relatively. And there you go. I have to again choose it here if I want to start this, but I should be able to reload the solution. And now I should not see any errors in the log. Yes, great. And now I should break here, hit F5 to continue, and get an exception. And why are you not breaking, boy? Okay, so this is clearly wrong. And I feel bad that it's not working how I said it would. So what you can do is okay, so what I will do here, I will basically walk the source until it fails. Right, I have my friendly F11 with me, which I can walk here and sometimes skip stuff as it's not necessary. And I will walk it until I catch an exception, which will be a while, but sometimes it's the only thing that can happen, right? And here you can see that I'm actually walking through the source code of Stride, etc., etc. Okay, so I finished the scripts, and now I will go through another game system until I get to the what is this? What is this? Effect system. No, until I get to the physics. Scene system. Audio system. Okay, so apparently not this frame. No exception here. Go even further. Wait, what? Excuse me? Okay. Good to know, I guess. So you can go bug hunting with me, apparently. Okay, I'll copy that over here, because I want the exception to actually happen. And apparently it didn't. Okay, that is just wrong. I go on to create a nice video about debugging bugs and I hit something even worse. So, okay, if the bug happened where I met it before, I would go onto my come on, my Stride repo and find the physics project with the physics component, I believe, or maybe it was rigid body. I will see in a moment. It was rigid body, which is in the elements folder, and yeah, exactly, it was this method and it was this line. So this is where the exception was happening before, and now I can hit that, right? So what I want is to say like, okay, I'm hitting it here, I'm turning those off until I hit that. Okay, now I'm going back here, turning it back on, and well, generally I'm again hitting F5 and apparently the bug I wanted to show you is no longer a bug here. Now it's something else. It's somewhere else. And I don't know where. Now that is crazy. So doing that basically makes the application quit. I will open the history and see if there was anything done that would likely cause it. And it generally doesn't look like It doesn't look like I see anything that would clearly be giving me a problem. So that's not great. Okay, well then let's hunt. Hunt for the bug. So here we could see I have exited. Why? Because in the run I have game window. Okay, so well, let's see. Let's try to break on run here. First, right here. Okay, so this is the one of the first things that happens. It opens the window for us. And this is the game platform on init callback, which does initialize before run and this is in the game base, and this calls initialize, creates the graphics device, stuff like that. It actually draws, it loads content, sets running to true, and begins run. Okay, which is virtual and does nothing. And then it updates game systems, which is for each updatable system. Well, we add them to a local collection to then later walk through them. So basically, I will go on and skip those. Right, this is the first update of before anything is drawn yet, I think. Okay, so I hit the first update. Right, so this is the scheduler called from the script system, called from here. Okay. Currently updating game system clear. Is first update done? True. Okay, awesome. What next? We end draw false, and we return. Okay. We have a context. Is user managing run? No. Okay. Run callback. Run the rendering loop. Okay. Windows run if exiting, destroy, and then run callback. And now I'm somewhere. I'm showing the window. Great. And now I am looping. If exiting, run callback. Okay, run callback. the exception is null, so tick, and tick means, okay, so here we failed to continue apparently. Okay, so let's go up to this point, I guess. Right, I can disable the previous breakpoints. I can even disable this one for now, and this one. And now I'm at tick. Okay, let's see what happens. Tick, if is exiting, false, okay. If it's not active, is active is true, so it's fine. Produce a tick, okay. Okay, we do a tick, draw frame, update count, okay. And then we do a raw tick, which begins the draw and updates the time and then does the update. Okay, so again, we go through those. And possibly I will go into the physics. Yes. And see if this works, or is any of this throwing. Okay, simulation simulate was unhappy with us. So let's relaunch the game. Up to this point, hello. Okay. So this was an external call here to the bullet library. And this looks okay. So for some reason, we couldn't continue debugging. This looks all right. There is no exceptions here, apparently. In which case, this should not really be an issue. Right? Oh, wait. My bad. We were at the first frame. And did I unselect it? Let me open the simulation. Sorry. No, the physics system. That was the one, right? Right. So yeah. So not on the first time, on the second time. There you go. Now let's see what's happening. Okay, this is still fine. And now this ends, and that's not great. Right, so I know for a fact that there is a bug, because the moment I take my bug and I comment it, and I run and I turn off all the breakpoints, well, it works, right? So I know this is a bug. Unfortunately, now this bug crashes the engine in a different spot than it did previously for me. Right? It does so in the external part. In the simulation here. But I know for a fact that this is where something happens, right? So I can actually go here into the issues and say this. Like, first of all, yeah, so what happens now? I have found a place for a bug, right? What I would do is go on the Discord and search for it. So what I did was set scene to null and change the parent, right? So I say like change entity parent, and then I get a bunch of things. I will get, well, my very own issue. But actually, yeah, that's a different thing. But so we can see not really many responses for this. Changing parent, maybe setting parent, set parent, yeah. So there we have a bit more. But you may not find, as I didn't, the actual thing here. So then we go here and we search for the same among the issues. Set parent. There are none. Okay. What about change parent? Okay, there is something here. But as I look through it, nothing here that matches my issue. So I will create a new issue. I will say bug report. Now I need to call it something. So I will call it changing an entity's parent, or rather setting an entity. Okay, so now the question is also how broad is this bug? So I will actually go ahead and launch the studio and create a and modify my repro so that I'm not, so I know for a fact that this is buggy, right? But my question is, what if it's not the scene that I'm removing it from, but just another parent? Okay. So now I will get the sphere and I will put it here so that now the sphere is a child of bug holder. And here, what I will do is uncomment this and say dot set parent null. Or rather, I will do it differently. I would say get parent and then remove child, entity to remove. Right? So this is fully legit. The same way I remove a child and add a child. And see if this crashes. Okay, that's interesting. It has wait, what? Parent null? I didn't save it. It happens. Okay, now let's go through it again. We check if it crashes. it does. Okay, so what we know is that changing an entity's parent within a frame will cause a crash. Now, a crash is bad, right? Especially if there is no exception logged anywhere, right? There is nothing here in the output. There is no exception break in the Visual Studio, and the Visual Studio breaks at every exception that's not being handled. So this is serious. So I can easily say changing an entity's parent in a single frame causes a crash, right? So I can say it's in both the official release and in GitHub because we observed it in both versions. So I can say GitHub because I compiled myself, but yeah, it's both. Master, and I will slash it with the previous thing I tried, which was the beta 1254. Platform, well, Windows, but probably any. So I will say any. Right, if it was platform specific, then it would matter more. But this doesn't seem to be platform specific. So now the bug is changing an entity's parent within a frame causes a game crash in the next frame. Specifically, the physics system. Crashes. Right, so here to reproduce, I say create a new game, add the following script. And now I provide the script. Right, so I go over to Visual Studio, to my repro, and I copy this nicely. Right, I can verify it's code. It's not, so I need to indent it one more, which I will do here as it's easier. Okay, copy, paste. There we go. Very nice. I can actually remove the unnecessary parts, which is the start here, because it doesn't do anything. But I can also copy this over down there. So let's do that. Let's copy this. Let's paste it here. Let's remove that. Okay, keep it nice and smooth. Like this should be the smallest code that's available to reproduce the bug. Okay, so create a script 3, plug 2 entities into the component in the Game Studio. If you use the first line commented, they can be anywhere, otherwise entity to remove has to have a parent. Okay, and for run game, observe crash. Expected behavior. So ideally, this should work, right? But maybe it's a limitation that's unavoidable somehow. So there are two possibilities. Either allow, fix the issue to allow changing a parent of an entity within one frame, or disallow doing so by throwing an exception when adding a child that was someone else's child within the same frame. Right, so maybe you cannot do that ever because the physics system is too complex, and thus you will get an exception here, which is fine because it will actually signify that this action is the problem. If I do this in a large code base and now my game crashes, I might not be able to figure out that this is the cause, right? Okay, so I don't have any screenshots. I don't have a call stack, right? That's problematic. I would much prefer to have one, but I don't. So I will get some additional context. So first thing I know is that changing the parent across two frames is fine. Remove the parent in one frame, add the child in the other. So I will write that. Right. Let me explain it more. So first frame, remove parent. Second frame, add child. Now, we found where the crash is happening, right? So the crash is happening at, and now it's good to provide the link to the file. So I will go ahead here, open Stride in another tab, find the file, right? So here I found it in the simulation here at this point, right? So I can highlight, I can see where it is here. Now, with this particular bug, the debugging was much harder than it usually is. Usually when you have a bug, there's an exception, and the exception is shown to you by the Visual Studio, which tells you exactly where it's coming from. Here, I previously was getting an exception in a different spot, right? Like the one I showed you in the rigid body here. This is where I was getting an exception previously, as data was set to null and there was an invalid state where it was trying to read it, and yeah. So, well, I can go ahead and find the file, which is sources, engine, physics, and simulation, and was line 699, I believe, which is about here. There you go, 690. Okay, so I click it, I can say copy permalink, paste it here, and we can see a very nice link to this line. And I can also say previously observed at and previously meaning when, so I will see the hash of my previous master, right? Well, for me I can see that because I have pushed it before, so I can go ahead here and I can actually copy the SHA. So I can say previously here observed at, and then go and show you the rigid body place. Which is where? At line 405 here. Okay. Yeah. Okay. And this is generally a nice bug report, right? So I can go ahead and submit it. But before I do that, there's one more thing I can do, and that is to blame this file, the rigid body or the simulation, and see when was it last changed. So there's this git blame that tells me when and by whom it was last changed. So sources, come on, sources, engine, physics, simulation, right? Let's view the blame for this one. So here we can go and see, I want to see any change that happened in July. So I'm looking for 2020-07. If there's any such thing, I can search for it actually. So 2020-07 and not found. This file was not changed in July. Okay, so let me see the rigid body then. And do the same. Not found again. So this file was also not changed in July. Therefore, well, the change must have happened somewhere else, right? Basically, that caused the change from this to this. It even could have changed in the external library that does the simulation here. So yeah, I have written up a bug and I will submit it, and then it's going to be reviewed. And if someone who knows the engine well enough can find a solution, they will fix it. If I were to now go further into searching for the cause and actually find it, I can then comment here or create a pull request that fixes the issue and signal that this issue, this bug is what I'm fixing. So that's it for today. I hope you learned something. I hope this isn't too long. Unfortunately, I wasn't expecting this bug to change. Right, but this happens sometimes. So anyway, thanks again for watching. I hope you liked it, and see you in my next video.